Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota, here with my co host, Jordan. And today we're going to try to crack some codes on Marvel Legend teases that have been put out at the last few cons. So we've got this rope looking thing and this rock horn tip looking thing. Now, I saw these on Dan Who. This is a small channel. You may have heard of it. And he's all right. He had some guesses. Some of them were all right. Here at the Strong Collectors, we're gonna try to have a little bit more solid guesses here. And speaking of that, Jordan, he was saying that we
Yes.
don't have very good collections or weak collectors. I'll have you know,
Right.
Dan, who look at this back here. This this is a howling man wolf. I'll have you know. So say what you will
You
about
don't
my
see
collect.
that in just every collection.
I don't see that in Dan Who's collection for sure.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about that.
And yeah, we just don't have that Dan Who money. So
That's true.
when we get that Dan Who money, you can catch us stacking all of our action figures, Sandwich Man style, behind us, and
We speak
very
for the
vanilla
common folk.
poses.
For the common folk who, like
Right,
us, Dakota, have to dream of all the figures that they want to have. So
exactly.
we get some of them. We get the ones we want, Dan, and that's what matters.
Right. Now let's get into some of these teases here. I'm going to let you take the rope tease, Jordan, because I think you
Okay.
had some pretty good guesses here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So as Dakota mentioned, we're thinking pretty clearly some kind of rope, a little yellowish loop of sorts. One of my first guesses, my brain went right to Montana from the Enforcers. Now, you might laugh at that. However, I've put a good amount of thought into the Enforcers. I even have an Envision 5-pack. You can go
You
back and
do.
check that out. And check that out because I do think the Enforcers actually would be pretty cool to see as characters. There's I don't know. That'd be pretty wild, but he kind of has one of those little lassos and would
Hmm.
be running around in his old-timey mobster suit. So,
Very Indiana
actually
Jones looking.
right. Yeah, and I actually think those guys would be kind of cool. So,
I think I would
I'm not get
more likely I would expect like a 2 or a 3-pack. A 5-pack might be a stretch. You should still go check
No,
out that
I
video
know.
though.
You're right.
But
Yeah,
I think Montana, Fancy Dan, and Ox. I could see that
right.
because I've been reading the Ultimate
Mhm.
Spider-Man recently, and they show up. Seems like every other issue. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, it's some version of that I actually would go for. A second guess of mine was the infamous Pervy She-Hulk jump rope cover, where I believe it was the John Byrne She-Hulk era. Or no, maybe it wasn't. Was he the writing? I think he was writing. I might get called out for that. Either way, it was a cover where She-Hulk's getting handed a jump rope, and it's like jump, and then she does throughout the issue. It's like a meta thing where she's jumping, and everybody wants to see her naked, but they're just missing it. It's not going to happen. However,
probably
you
not.
know, for some reason that image is in my brain. I've only seen it like one time, so I don't know why I even remember that. I had to look it up just to remember it. And another guess, this one could be a little more serious, but probably not going to happen. Is the Hangman? Now, Dakota, the Hangman to me is a classic cheesy villain. He's got an exposed chest somewhat. He's got purple. He's got some goofy accessories. Very much appeared in like kind of a Casey Jones style thing. Like I want to go enforce my own
Mm,
justice as the common man. Somehow he crossed paths with Werewolf by Night, which I don't see that going well for him. But he kind of seemed to have sort of fade off into obscurity. So I'd like to see the Hangman make a return in his full goofy glory with his lasso.
yeah, I think we'll give credit where credit's due. I think Dan had a decent guess here with
Mm-hmm.
the one of Magneto's acolytes, Senyaka. That
Mm-hmm.
seems pretty possible with the recent Fabian Cortez being announced.
Yeah.
That's possible. I'm still going to say I'm hoping for an Enforcers
All right.
something or another with Montana. So now we'll switch over to the horn rock looking thing. So I think it looks a little more like a spear to me, but if
Mm-hmm.
it's not a spear, maybe it's a fin from like a straight on view. We've already got a
Mm-hmm.
tiger shark, so I don't think it's that, and it looks a little too like actual like the gray.
Stone.
If it's that colored look,
Yeah.
then maybe this is going to be a long shot here. Probably not. Maybe a Shark
Mm-hmm.
Girl. Now this, I've never read anything with her in it. I've just seen some kind of more like, goofiest Marvel character looks or whatever.
Mm.
Probably not, though. I think it's going to be more of a spear. So along those lines, I would assume Shauna is a pretty obvious guess. We've gotten the Kazar, the
Yeah.
Zabu.
Mm-hmm.
Boog Nice has been talking about a 3-pack of Savage Land some sorts, which
Makes sense. Yeah.
Dan Who is trying to get us to start beef and called Boog a liar. And, that's, we know better than to go up against him. Things don't go well when you do that. You got whole mediations and it
Yeah.
gets ugly.
We can't afford those online toy collector mediators. Trust me.
Right.
That's not in our budget right now. But
Another
someday
spear.
we hope to.
Right. If we can leech off a little more content from those big fish, we
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We'll be saying a lot of stuff on here.
another spear wielding Marvel character we've seen several times is Craven the Hunter. Now,
Yeah.
we've had the retro carded version most recently. We've had a 2-pack. We've had the single carded. You know what we haven't seen, Jordan? The upcoming movie Craven as a figure.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they've done the Carnage figures, like just
True.
recently with him. They did Venom twice now. It's very possible. I don't know. The movies, the Sony movies aren't really my cup of tea,
Right.
but I could see a figure being made of Craven. So I'll throw that out there.
Possibly. All right. That's fair.
I guess even along those lines, I hadn't thought of this before, but along the Craven lines, what if there was some sort of like torment pack with, what is that, Calypso? Or not
Mm-hmm.
Calypso. Is it Calypso?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Calypso. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if she's ever holding the spear. She seems like she could be.
I don't think so.
Get
But
that with like
maybe.
a monster lizard looking character. Anyway.
Okay.
Also Shuri, we've had I don't even know what wave she came in. Was that a Koye or something like that?
Yeah.
Way
Been
back,
a
the
while.
comic version of Shuri, which I think is a really cool look for the character. I really wanted to like that figure, but it's just, that single joint just doesn't really get in the poses you want her to. So I think
Right.
if we could get the butterfly joints and more articulation, that'd be a pretty cool figure. And if they're going cloth goods, maybe a cloth goods cape on Shuri would be interesting.
Not bad.
So again, maybe not the most likely, but it's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put this, I think, like I said, Shauna is very likely, but I think I'm going to put this above Shauna. And I'm going to say a Savage Land Rogue, because when you Google pictures of Savage Land Rogue, a lot of them have her holding this type of like carved stone spear. So that's going to be, I think, my number one guess for this. And I think a lot of people have been wanting a Savage Land Rogue. I think it would be very interesting if the 3-pack Boog has been talking about for the Savage Land includes 2 females, like a Savage Land Rogue and a Shauna. So maybe both guesses are right. I'm not sure who the third would be. Maybe.
Ooh, and then they share the spear. Bada boom, bada bang. They're both correct.
Right.
Like
So
where your
you
head's
could
at.
just kind of have all those, like, like a knife, spear, maybe a couple spears. And then it just kind of goes with whoever in there. So maybe you'd have Magneto in that pack. Maybe you'd have some of the mutates, the lizard guy. I can't remember what his name is from the cartoons, probably from the comics too. But anyway, and if it's not a spear, you'd kind of mentioned a rock slide. I could see that.
Yeah,
There are some.
that's all I could scramble for. I mean, I think there's some illustrations of him where his rocks are a little more like jaggedy, exaggerated. So it depends if they lean into that, like even making them a bit bigger. I could see something like that.
Yeah.
But I think, unless it's a bigger figure, you're probably not going to see that as like coming off of the character itself, which makes me think it's probably the spear.
Yeah. And
I like that Savage Land Road guess. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I think that one seems likely. It sort of could look like Marrow. I don't think it's the right color for that though. I think Dan and Rich were also saying possibly Husk, because I think that's a leaked figure from Rectangular, I believe. So possibly, but I still I'm thinking more Savage Land with this. But if you have any guesses, we'd love to hear them down in the comments. Let us know. Make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, stay strong.